"Sir, don't turn around." Ethan Cross stopped mid-stride, phone already halfway to his ear. The JFK terminal hummed with late-night energy, rolling suitcases, gate announcements, the shuffle of exhausted travelers desperate to get home. He didn't turn, but his jaw tightened with irritation. "I don't have time for this," he said coldly, not bothering to look at whoever had spoken. "Please." The voice was closer now, female, breathless, urgent. "You're being followed, since Lowe's Angels. Gray jacket, baseball cap, 3 o'clock behind you. He's been tracking you for 6 hours. Ethan's spine went rigid. He turned slowly, ready to dismiss whatever scam this was. The woman who'd spoken stood 2 feet away in a rumpled flight attendant uniform, navy blue, JFK Airways logo on the breast pocket. Late 20s, dark circles under her eyes, brown hair escaping from a bun that had clearly survived a transcontinental flight. She looked exhausted, unremarkable. Except for her eyes. They were sharp, alert, and absolutely terrified. "Who are you?" Ethan demanded. "That doesn't matter. What matters is—" The crowd shifted. A man in a gray jacket pushed through, too fast, too focused. The flight attendant's eyes went wide. "Get down." She moved. Not away from the threat, toward it. Her body collided with Ethan, shoving him sideways with surprising force. He stumbled, catching himself against a departure board. The crack of gunfire was muffled, a suppressed shot that most people mistook for something dropped. But Ethan saw it clearly. The flight attendant crumpling to the polished airport floor, red blooming across her white shirt, spreading like ink in water. The man in the gray jacket was already running, disappearing into the crowd with practiced ease. And the woman, this stranger who'd thrown herself between Ethan and a bullet, looked up at him with fatting focus. "Run," she whispered, voice barely audible. "You weren't supposed to see me." Then her eyes rolled back. Chaos erupted. Airport security swarmed. Paramedics appeared within minutes. TSA locked down the terminal. Travelers screamed, scattered, pulled out phones to record. And Ethan stood frozen, blood on his hands, her blood, staring at the woman being loaded onto a stretcher. "Sir, we need to move you to a secure location." A security officer touched his arm. Ethan jerked away. "Where are they taking her?" "Sir." "Where?" "Airport medical facility, but you need to." "I'm going with her." "That's not protocol." "I don't give a damn about protocol." Ethan's voice was steel. "That woman just took a bullet meant for me. I'm not leaving her." The officer hesitated, then nodded. "This way." The airport medical facility was small, more equipped for heart attacks and panic attacks than gunshot wounds. But the paramedics worked with swift efficiency, stabilizing her before the ambulance arrived. Ethan stood against the wall, watching through the glass partition. She was unconscious, pale, so much smaller than she'd seemed when she'd shoved him aside. "Mr. Cross." He turned, a police detective, mid-40s, tired eyes, cheap suit. "Detective Martinez, I need to ask you some questions." "Not now." "Sir, a woman was just shot in a crowded airport. This isn't optional." Ethan's hands clenched into fists. Every instinct screamed to refuse, to call his lawyers, to protect himself the way he'd learned to after years of people trying to exploit any vulnerability. But she'd bled for him. A stranger, someone he'd dismissed as an annoyance seconds before she'd saved his life. "Fine," he said roughly, "but make it quick." Martinez pulled out a notepad. "Do you know the victim?" "No." "Ever seen her before tonight?" "I was on the LA to New York flight. She might have been working it, I don't remember." Ethan hated how callous that sounded, but it was true. He'd been in first class, headphones on, working. Flight attendants were background noise. "Any idea why someone would want to kill you?" Ethan laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. I'm a billionaire detective, take your pick. Hostile takeovers, fired executives, competitors, ex-girlfriends who didn't like the prenup. This is serious. Before we continue, can I ask you a question? Where in the world are you watching from? Comment below because we'd love to know how far these stories travel, and hit that subscribe button. You think I don't know that? Ethan's voice rose. A woman I've never met just got shot protecting me, so either figure out who did this or get out of my way so I can. Martinez studied him. We'll need you to come to the station tomorrow. Full statement. Security detail for the foreseeable future. Whatever you need. The detective left. Ethan turned back to the glass, watching paramedics prepare to transport her. "Who are you?" he whispered. She didn't wake for 18 hours. Ethan canceled his meeting, the critical acquisition that was supposed to close by midnight, ignored 17 calls from his COO, dismissed the security team his company sent. He sat in the hospital waiting room, still wearing blood-stained clothes, and waited. The police had identified her. Lila Hart, 27, flight attendant with JFK Airways for 4 years. No criminal record, no red flags. Single, lived alone in Queens, next of kin listed as deceased. She was nobody, and she'd thrown herself in front of a bullet for him. When Lila finally woke, she was alone. The hospital room was dim, evening light filtering through blinds. Her chest felt like it was on fire, and when she tried to sit up, pain lanced through her shoulder. "Don't move." She froze. Ethan Cross sat in the corner chair, looking like he hadn't slept. His suit jacket was gone, shirt sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. Dark stubble shadowed his jaw. He looked exhausted and furious. "You stayed," Lila said hoarsely. "Of course I stayed." "Why?" "Because you took a bullet for me." He stood, moving closer but stopping at the foot of her bed. "And I want to know why." Lila closed her eyes. "I told you you were being followed." "By who?" "I don't know." "Why help me?" "Because I saw." "A stranger," Ethan interrupted, voice hard. "You saw a stranger in an airport and decided to risk your life. That's not normal, Lila. That's not even rational." She flinched at the use of her name. Of course he'd found out who she was. Men like him always did. "You don't understand," she said quietly. "Then explain it to me." "I can't." "Can't or whoa?" "Both." She looked at him finally, taking in the anger simmering beneath his controlled exterior. "You should go. I'm fine. You're safe. That's all that matters." "That's not all that matters." He moved closer, and she could see the exhaustion in his eyes now. The fear. "You almost died. For someone you don't even know. Someone who didn't even look at you until you were bleeding on the ground." The words hung between them, sharp and true. "I know," Lila whispered. "That's what people like me are for. We're invisible until we're useful." Ethan recoiled like she'd slapped him. "That's not." "It is exactly what happened." Her voice was steady despite the pain. "And it's fine. I chose to help. You didn't ask me to, so thank you for checking on me, but you don't owe me anything. Go back to your life, Mr. Cross. I'll go back to mine." "What life?" The question was harsh. "The police told me everything. You live alone, no family, no emergency contacts except a neighbor who barely knows you. You work 60-hour weeks flying routes no one else wants." His voice dropped. "You're as isolated as I am, maybe more." Lila's throat tightened. "You investigated me." "Of course I did. Someone tried to kill me and a stranger saved me. I needed to know who you were." "And now you do. Mystery solved. You can leave." "No." The word was flat, final. "Excuse me." I said no. Ethan pulled the chair closer to her bed and sat. "You don't get to dismiss me, not after what you did." "I don't want your gratitude." "Good, because what you're getting is my attention and my protection until we figure out who shot you." "They weren't shooting at me. I got in the way." Exactly. You got in the way of a bullet meant for me, which means whoever wanted me dead now knows you're involved. You're in danger because of me. Lila hadn't thought of that. Horror crept up her spine. I just wanted to help. I know, his voice softened fractionally, but help has consequences, and I'm not letting you face them alone. Ethan hired a private security detail for Lila over her protests. I can't afford this, she said when two discreet bodyguards appeared outside her hospital room. You're not paying for it, I am. I don't want your money. It's not about what you want, it's about keeping you alive. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through something, then showed her the screen. It was a news article. Billionaire CEO Ethan Cross survives assassination attempt, flight attendant critical. Her face was in the photo, taken from some company database, blurry and unflattering. They know who you are now, Ethan said quietly. Everyone knows, which means you're a target, either because someone wants to finish what they started or because someone wants to use you to get to me. Lila felt sick. This is insane, I'm nobody. You're somebody now, the woman who saved Ethan Cross. Like it or not, that makes you visible. Visible, the word she'd spent years avoiding. She'd chosen flight attendant work specifically because it was anonymous, transient. She served people who never looked at her face, who treated her like a function rather than a person. It was safe, predictable. And now she was headlines. I want to go home, she said desperately. Your apartment isn't secure. I don't care. Ethan studied her for a long moment. Okay, but security comes with you, non-negotiable. Her apartment in Queens was exactly what Ethan expected. Small, clean, impersonal, minimal furniture. No photos on the walls. Nothing that suggested someone actually lived here rather than just existed between flights. It looked like his penthouse, empty of anything that mattered. Nice place, he lied. Lila didn't answer. She was standing in the middle of her living room, arms wrapped around herself, looking lost. You should rest, Ethan said. Doctor said at least 2 weeks before you can work again. I know. Do you need anything? Groceries, prescriptions? No. Lila. Why are you still here? The question came out raw. You have companies to run, meetings to reschedule, a life that doesn't include babysitting a flight attendant who made a stupid choice. It wasn't stupid. It was reckless, impulsive, the kind of thing people do when she stopped, throat working. When they what? When they don't think their life matters enough to protect it, she whispered. The admission hung in the air, too honest and too painful. Ethan crossed the room slowly. Is that what you think, that your life doesn't matter? I think, Lila said carefully, that I'm very good at being invisible, and invisible people don't have lives that matter. They have routines, patterns, existence. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. She laughed, a broken sound. Why, it's true. I work flights where I smile and serve and then disappear. I come home to an empty apartment. I have no friends, no family, no one who would notice if I didn't come home one day. She looked at him finally. So yeah, when I saw that man following you, saw the gun, I didn't think about my life, because my life is just time passing. Yours actually matters. That's not, Ethan stopped, because what could he say? That her life had value. He thought the same thing about himself for years. That being useful was the only metric that mattered. That connection was a liability. You're wrong, he said finally. Am I? Yes, because if your life didn't matter, you wouldn't have saved mine. People who don't value themselves don't sacrifice for strangers. Maybe I just have a hero complex. Or maybe, Ethan said quietly, you saw someone in danger and couldn't walk away. Because despite everything, you still care. You still believe some lives are worth saving. Lila's eyes filled with tears, just not mine. Why not? The question was so gentle it broke her. She sank onto the couch, shoulders shaking. Ethan sat beside her, careful not to touch, not to crowd, and waited. I had a family once, Lila said finally. Parents, a little brother, we were happy, normal. And then one night, a drunk driver, she stopped, breathing hard. I was the only one who survived. 16 years old, woke up in a hospital bed alone. Lila. Foster care after that, aging out at 18. No money, no support, no purpose except to keep breathing. I became a flight attendant because it meant I could leave, could be anywhere but where I was, could serve people and then disappear before they remembered my face. She wiped her eyes roughly. So when I saw someone in danger, I didn't think. I just moved. Because maybe if I saved you, it would balance out all the people I couldn't save. Ethan's chest ached. You can't carry that. I already do. Then let me help carry it. She looked at him like he'd spoken another language. Why would you do that? Because I understand. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling. My parents died when I was 22. Plane crash. Left me a failing company and $1 billion debt. Everyone said to declare bankruptcy, start over, but I couldn't, because that company was all I had left of them. So you saved it, Lila said softly. I destroyed myself saving it, worked 18-hour days, cut out everything that wasn't profitable, including people, friends, relationships, anything that felt like vulnerability. He laughed bitterly. I built an empire, and then I looked around and realized I was completely alone in it. That's why you fly commercial, Lila said, instead of private. He glanced at her, surprised. How did you know? Because people like you don't fly commercial, unless they're trying to remember what normal feels like. Ethan felt something in his chest crack open. This woman, this stranger who'd saved him, saw things no one else did. I'm tired of being alone, he admitted, but I don't know how to be anything else. Me neither, Lila whispered. They sat in silence, two broken people recognizing each other's wounds. And for the first time in years, neither of them felt quite so invisible. Ethan visited every day. At first, he told himself it was about security, about keeping Lila safe until the police found the shooter, about responsibility. But by the third day, he knew he was lying. He came because she was the first person in years who looked at him and saw Ethan asterisk, not his net worth, not his influence, not what he could provide. She saw the exhaustion, the loneliness, the carefully maintained walls. And she didn't try to climb them, she just sat beside them. You don't have to keep checking on me, Lila said one afternoon. She was healing well. The bullet had missed anything vital, but the pain lingered. She sat on her couch with her arm in a sling, looking pale but alive. I know, Ethan said. Then why do you? Because I want to. The honesty seemed to unsettle her. She looked away, fingers playing with the edge of her sling. This isn't normal. Billionaires don't befriend flight attendants. I'm not befriending you. Her face fell. Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I'm getting to know you, Ethan interrupted. There's a difference. Friendship implies casualness. He struggled for words. This is me trying to understand why you matter so much. I don't matter, I told you. You told me what you believe, not what's true. He moved to sit across from her, elbows on his knees. Can I tell you what I see? You don't have to. I see someone who spent 6 hours on a flight noticing things no one else did, who tracked a threat across an airport because she couldn't look away, who threw herself in front of a bullet for someone she didn't know. His voice dropped. I see someone brave and lonely, and so convinced she's invisible that she doesn't realize she's the most visible person I've encountered in years. Lila's breath hitched. Stop. Why? Because you're making me hope. And hope is dangerous. Why is it dangerous? Because people leave, the words burst out of her, raw and desperate. Everyone leaves. My parents left. Foster families left. Every friend I tried to make, every connection I tried to build, they all left. So I learned to stop hoping someone would stay. I learned to be invisible so it wouldn't hurt when people looked past me. I'm not looking past you. You will, her voice broke. Once you realize I'm just a broken girl with trauma and nothing to offer, once the novelty wears off, once you remember that your world and mine don't overlap. What if I don't want them to be separate worlds? Lila stared at him. What are you saying? Ethan didn't know. He only knew that sitting in her small apartment felt more like home than his penthouse ever had. That talking to her felt easier than breathing. That when she looked at him with those wounded, wary eyes, something in his chest ached to prove he was different. I'm saying I'm tired of being alone, he said quietly, and I think you are too. The truth came out by accident. 2 weeks after the shooting, Lila was cleared to leave her apartment. Ethan suggested dinner, somewhere quiet, away from cameras. I can't afford fancy restaurants, she said immediately. I'm paying. Ethan, please let me do this. You've been cooped up for weeks. You deserve something nice. She agreed reluctantly. The restaurant was understated, a small Italian place in Brooklyn with dim lighting and wine bottle candles. No paparazzi, no recognition, just two people sharing pasta and conversation. Lila relaxed by the second glass of wine. This is nice, she admitted. Thank you. You don't have to thank me. I do, you've been, she paused, searching for words. You've been kind when you didn't have to be. I'm not being kind, I'm being selfish. You're the best part of my day. The confession hung between them, vulnerable and true. Lila's cheeks flushed. You can't say things like that. Why not? Because I'll believe you, and then I'll get hurt. What if I mean it? You don't know me well enough to mean it. Then let me know you better. Before Lila could respond, someone approached their table. Mr. Cross, a man in an expensive suit, phone already out. I'm sorry to interrupt, I'm a huge admirer of your work. Could I get a photo? Ethan's expression shuddered. Not tonight. Please, just one. He said no, Lila said firmly. The man blinked, surprised, then backed away with a muttered apology. Ethan looked at her, startled. Thank you. People don't listen the first time you say no, she said quietly. I've noticed. But the moment was broken. Other diners had noticed now. Phones appeared, whispers spread. We should go, Ethan said, already standing. They left cash on the table and slipped out the back. In the car, Lila was quiet. Too quiet. Are you okay? Ethan asked. That happens a lot, doesn't it? People recognizing you. Yes. And you hate it. I hate the performance, the expectation that I'll be charming and accessible and grateful for the attention. He glanced at her. I'm none of those things. You're kind, Lila said, to me at least. Because you don't want anything from me. Everyone wants something, Ethan. What do you want? The question caught her off guard. I don't know. Yes, you do. Lila was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely audible. I want to matter to someone. Just once, I want to be the person someone chooses to keep instead of the person they thank and forget. Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. You matter to me. You don't mean that. I do. He pulled the car over. They were near her apartment now, streetlights casting everything in amber. Lila, look at me. She did. I'm not performing, he said. I'm not being charitable. I'm not trying to repay a debt. I'm choosing to be here because being with you makes me feel human again. Makes me remember what it's like to care about something other than quarterly earnings and hostile takeovers. And I'm nobody, a flight attendant who got lucky or unlucky, I don't even know anymore. You're someone who saw danger and didn't look away, someone who carries grief with dignity, someone who makes me want to be better than the man I've become. He paused. That's not nobody, Lila, that's extraordinary. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I don't know how to believe you. Then don't, not yet, just don't push me away. Let me prove it. She found out 3 days later. Lila was cleared to return to work, light duty, no international flights. She showed up for her first shift back and immediately felt the difference. People stared, whispered. A fellow flight attendant, someone she'd worked with for years, cornered her in the break room. "So it's true, you're dating Ethan Cross." Lila blinked. "What? No, he's been helping with." "There are photos, Lila, of you two at dinner, leaving his building. People are calling you the billionaire's guardian angel." The woman laughed. "I always wondered how you'd move up. Didn't think you'd do it on your back." The words hit like a slap. Lila felt her face go hot. "That's not, we haven't." "Whatever, just know that management's watching. Dating passengers is against policy." The woman left. Lila stood alone in the break room, hands shaking. She pulled out her phone, searched Ethan Cross. The results were overwhelming. Net worth, $4.7 billion. CEO of Crosstech Industries. Named one of Forbes' most influential under 40. Known for hostile takeovers and ruthless business strategy. Photo after photo of him at galas, conferences, charity events. Always alone, always cold. This was who she'd saved, who she'd let into her apartment, who she'd started to trust. Not just wealthy, obscenely wealthy, the kind of wealthy that existed in a different universe from hers. And she'd been so stupid, so pathetically stupid, to think they could be anything real. She didn't answer his calls that night. Or the next day. By the third day, Ethan showed up at her apartment. "Lila, open the door. I know you're in there." "Silence. Please just talk to me." The door opened. Lila stood there in sweats and a t-shirt, looking exhausted. "You lied to me." Ethan's stomach dropped. "About what?" "About who you are, what you are, everything asterisk." "I never lied. You let me think you were normal, some businessman with bad luck, not a asterisk billionaire who owns half the tech companies in America." "Would it have changed anything?" Ethan asked quietly. "If you'd known?" "Yes," the word came out anguished. "I never would have. I would have stayed away, kept my distance, not let myself." She stopped, breathing hard. "Not let yourself what?" "Not let myself hope." Tears streamed down her face now. "I let myself believe that maybe someone like you could care about someone like me. That I wasn't just a charity case or a guilt project. That this was real." "It is asterisk real." "No, it's not. You live in a world I can't even imagine. Penthouses and private jets and galas where a single ticket costs more than I make in a year. And I serve drinks on planes. I live in a 400-square-foot apartment. I have nothing to offer you except," her voice broke, "except the fact that I was convenient, available, grateful. That's not why I'm here." "Then why asterisk are you here, Ethan?" She looked at him with such raw pain it made his chest ache. "Why are you wasting your time with someone so far beneath you?" "You're not beneath me." "I'm invisible," the word came out like a sob. "I have been my whole life. And then you show up and suddenly I'm visible, but only because I bled for you, only because I was useful. And I thought, God, I was so stupid. You see, the woman who saved your life. The debt you need to repay." "That's not true." "Isn't it?" She stepped back. "Go home, Ethan, back to your world. I'll go back to mine where I belong." "Lila, please." Her voice was barely a whisper now. "Please just go." Ethan left. But not because he agreed with her. He left because he could see that arguing, insisting, would only prove her point. That he'd become another person trying to tell her what she should feel, what she should believe. So he gave her space. And spent 3 days figuring out how to prove he wasn't performing. On the 4th day, he sent a message through her building's intercom. "Lila, I'm downstairs. I'm not asking you to let me up. I'm asking you to look out your window." A long pause, then, "Why?" Because I want to show you something. Something I don't show anyone. Another pause. Then the intercom clicked off. A minute later, Ethan's phone buzzed. I'm looking. He smiled, pulled out a large poster board he'd been holding. On it, written in his own messy handwriting. You were right. I didn't tell you everything. But not because I was hiding. Because for the first time in 10 years, someone saw me as ETHAN instead of ETHAN cross billionaire. And I didn't want that to end. He held it up so she could see from her fourth-floor window. Then flipped to a second board. I don't think you're a charity case. I don't think you're beneath me. I think you're the bravest person I've ever met, and I think I'm falling for you. A third board. I'm not asking you to fit into my world. I'm asking if maybe we could build something between them, something real, something ours. He set the boards down and looked up at her window. The curtain moved. Then slowly, the window opened. Lila looked down at him, tears streaming down her face. You're insane. Probably. People are starring. Let them. This is the most ridiculous romantic gesture I've ever seen. I'm not good at romantic gestures. I'm better with hostile takeovers. Despite everything, Lila laughed. What are you doing, Ethan? Choosing you, he said simply, visibly, publicly, so you can't tell yourself I'm ashamed of this, of us. There is no us, we're too different. We're both lonely, both carrying loss. Both convinced we're too broken to be loved. That sounds like we're exactly the same where it matters. I don't know how to be with someone like you. I don't know how to be with anyone, but I want to figure it out with you. He paused. Will you let me try? Lila stood at the window for a long moment. This man on the street below looking up at her with hope and fear, and something that looked terrifyingly like love. I'm scared, she said finally. Me too. I'll probably mess this up. So will I. I don't fit in your world. I don't fit in mine either. That's why I need you. Lila wiped her eyes. This is a terrible idea. Probably the worst I've ever had. You're not going to give up, are you? Not unless you tell me you feel nothing, that this is all one-sided, that you saved me out of duty and not because you care. He held her gaze. Can you tell me that? She couldn't. Because it would be a lie. She cared the moment she'd seen him in the airport, tired, alone, carrying the weight of someone who'd forgotten how to put it down. She'd cared when he'd stayed at the hospital, refusing to leave. She'd cared with every conversation, every quiet moment of understanding. And she was terrified of caring, but more terrified of the emptiness that would fill her life if she pushed him away. Come up, she said quietly. We should talk. They talked for hours. Not about wealth or class, or the impossible logistics of their different worlds. About fear, about trust, about what it meant to let someone in when you'd spent years building walls. I can't promise I won't panic, Lila said. They were sitting on her couch now, careful space between them. Or pull away when things get hard, or assume you're going to leave. I can't promise I won't work too much, or forget to communicate, or default to control when I'm scared. Ethan looked at her. But I can promise I'll try, and I won't leave without fighting for this first. Why me? The question was barely a whisper. You could have anyone. Because you don't want anything from me except honesty. Because you see the parts of me I try to hide and don't flinch. Because when I'm with you, I don't feel like I'm performing success. I feel like I'm just here. Present. Human. He paused. And because no one has ever chosen me without conditions, until you stepped in front of that bullet. That wasn't choosing, that was instinct. Was it? Ethan moved closer. Because you could have screamed, could have alerted security, could have done anything except put yourself between me and danger, but you did. And maybe it was instinct, but it was also choice. The choice to value my life over your safety. I don't value my own life enough, Lila admitted. Then let me value it for you. until you remember how." She looked at him, really looked, and saw not pity, not obligation, but something genuine, something that looked like the beginning of love. "This is going to be hard," she said. "Everything worth having is. The media will crucify me, call me a gold digger, a social climber. Let them, I don't care what they think. Your world will never accept me. Then we'll build our own." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he took her hand. "I'm not asking you to be perfect, Lila, or to fit some mold. I'm asking you to try, with me, messy and scared and broken as we both are." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I don't know how." "Neither do I, but maybe that's okay. Maybe we figure it out together." She squeezed his hand. "What if I hurt you? What if you do? What if this ruins everything? What if it saves everything?" Lila laughed through her tears. "You're very good at that." "At what?" "Turning my fears into possibilities. That's because I spent so long living in fear that I recognize it instantly. And I'm tired of it. Tired of being alone in rooms full of people. Tired of protecting myself so thoroughly that nothing and no one can get in." He brought her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. "I want to try, with you, if you'll let me." Lila's breath caught. This man, this impossible, brilliant, lonely man, was choosing her. Not because she was exceptional, not because she fit some ideal, but because she'd seen him as human and hadn't looked away. "Okay," she whispered, "we'll try." JFK Airport looked different now. Not the physical space, still the same fluorescent lights, the same hurried travelers, the same echoing announcements. But Lila moved through it differently. She wasn't invisible anymore. Flight attendants smiled as she passed. Passengers recognized her, some with warmth, some with curiosity, some with judgment. She'd been featured in articles, the woman who saved Ethan Cross. Photos circulated online. Strangers had opinions about her life, her choices, her relationship. It should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like freedom. Because being visible meant being seen, and being seen meant mattering. She finished her shift and found Ethan waiting at arrivals, not hiding in VIP lounges or sending a car. Just standing there in jeans and a jacket, holding 2 coffees. "You came," she said, smiling. "I always come." They'd fallen into a rhythm over the past 4 months. Dinner twice a week. Weekends spent in either her apartment or his penthouse, figuring out how to merge their worlds. Quiet mornings, honest conversations, the slow, careful building of trust. It wasn't perfect. Lila still panicked sometimes, still pulled away when things felt too good, too real. Ethan still worked too much, still defaulted to control when he was stressed. But they were learning together. "How was the flight?" Ethan asked as they walked toward the exit. "Long, turbulent. A kid threw up in first class." "Sounds glamorous." "It really is." She leaned against him as they walked. "How was your day?" "Boring meetings, hostile acquisition, the usual." "So also glamorous." He laughed, not even close. They stepped outside into the cool evening air. Cameras flashed, paparazzi who'd learned their routine. Ethan ignored them, so did Layla. "Can I tell you something?" she said quietly. "Always. I used to think being broken made me disappear, that the only way to survive was to be invisible, to not take up space or need things or let myself be seen. And now I think being broken just made me human, and being human means I deserve to take up space, to need things, to be seen and chosen and loved." She stopped, looking up at him. "You taught me that." Ethan cupped her face gently. "You taught yourself, I just reminded you." "We're good at that, reminding each other." "We are." "I love you," Lila said. She'd been saying it for 2 weeks now, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. "I love you for seeing me, for staying, for being as broken as I am and choosing to heal together." "I love you too," Ethan said, "for being brave enough to save me twice, once from a bullet and once from myself." He kissed her, soft and unhurried, the kiss of two people who'd learned that love wasn't about perfection or performance. It was about presence, about choosing each other day after day, despite fear and doubt and all the voices that said they were too different, too damaged, too unlikely. When they pulled apart, Lila rested her forehead against his. "Where to?" she asked. "Home." "Which one?" "Whichever one you're in." She smiled. "That's the right answer." They walked toward the parking garage hand in hand, two people who'd been invisible and had found each other in the spaces between worlds. The cameras kept flashing, strangers kept watching, the world kept spinning with all its judgment and opinions and noise. But in the quiet space between them, they were enough. Broken, healing, chosen. And finally visible in all the ways that mattered. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I truly appreciate you for spending your time here. It means a lot more than you know. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I really want to hear from you. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment. Your support helps the channel grow and brings more stories like this your way. Thank you for being here. More amazing stories are coming, don't miss them.